Hello, I'm Gemma Mendoza, Head for Digital Strategy at Rappler, and I'm here to talk about Rappler's story. So, first and foremost, Rappler started in 2011 as Facebook page Move.ph, and launched its website in January 2012. So right now, actually by January this year, we're turning 10. And we have three pillars: journalism, technology and data, and community. And when we were launched, the reason really why we were launched was there were really our founders, which includes Maria Ressa, who has recently been awarded the Nobel Peace Prize. Some among the questions that our founders were asking then, back in 2011, when we were still conceptualizing Rappler, were these questions: at the time, the Philippines. Social media in the Philippines was already becoming more mainstream, and therefore that was prompting many newsrooms to adopt social media. And you have this sense of social media being a participatory space, and because of that, clearly there was going to be some change in the way journalism will be conducted it will be practiced in this space where you have citizens participating. So one of among the things that we were asking them was, how then can you use that, the participation of citizens, for larger positive goals, and how do you use that for making the journalism, the investigations, the in-depth reporting that journalists do have positive impact and help strengthen democracy? So those are some of the questions that we had in mind. The other thing that was really foremost was independent journalism is very difficult to sustain and very difficult to scale. But with social media, with technology, the thinking then was it was going to shift. It was ready. Things were at the point where there could be a big shift in the way independent journalism can be done. Journalism can be in the way journalists do their work, in the way we make sure that the work that we do achieve scale. So at our core, as we mentioned, is independent journalism and investigative reporting. So one of the key sections of news Rappler is Newsbreak. It came from an award previously. An award-winning news organization, Newsbreak, which I also came from, and which was founded in 2001, and it's now part of Rappler. And we've done, as part of Rappler, we've done quite a lot of investigations, more recently on the drug war, and we've also been in the more recently released Pandora Papers. Our investigative team was also involved. So, but a bigger part of Rappler has to do with other things like, another big part of Rappler has to do with multimedia, exploring the use of multimedia in reporting, and using mobile for making sure. For communicating the news quickly. So there was quite a lot of experimentation as we started. We even put together our own mobile van using basically building on what we know of the technology, and then translating as much as possible a lot of the things that are usually hardware and expensive into exploring the use of software instead of hardware, which can be very expensive. And during the early days, our reporters were among the first to really in the country who were really reporting straight from their mobile phones, and that one of the photos here shows that. The other thing that we were really playing around with and play Rappler's really Rappler is really our HR chief actually says this. Rappler is sort of a playground where we experiment a lot with things like that the online space allows us to do, and one of that is data. So data journalism became part of the other things that we used as tools for enhancing our reporting. So in relation to, for instance, election data back in the past several elections that where Rappler is already there, and then in exposing or sometimes adding nuance to claims around the usual cheating patterns in during elections. So things that involve looking at big chunks of data in order to make sense of what's happening on the ground during critical issues such as elections. So those are some of the things that we've really worked on over the past years. But apart from that, the third pillar of Rappler, as I mentioned, is community, and we have a team called Move PH, which is really engaging with civil society groups and other communities on the ground, even government, in relation to key issues. So an example here would be the fact that the Philippines is one of the top, most disaster-prone countries, or in the most highly populated, disaster-prone countries in the world. And because of that, there's really a need for preparedness. So we saw that aside from reporting the way journalists typically do about disasters, there's also a need for media really to be part of solution seeking, and this is what the civic engagement team does. So there was a point when we actually had to train government bodies like the VBOX, for instance, the Philippine Institute of Volcanology and Seismology, and how they can more effectively use social media in relation to communicating issues or scientific knowledge about disasters. We've also been looking at how to use social media to harness citizen action around when disasters actually strike. So quite a lot of work on the part of the civic engagement team over the past years had to do with really working with different citizens whenever there's a typhoon, whenever there's flooding, and so on. So, and a big part of that also uses data and technologies, developing technologies. Towards the 2016 elections, though, what we started noticing online was that the rise in hate and the rise in disinformation, and this has prompted us to shift the efforts and put a lot of effort into studying further this space, because of this. What we saw was an increase in hate, bullying, cyberbullying online, and at the same time an increase in the amount of disinformation that is being circulated in the space. So we started looking at capturing data on the online spaces within the Philippines and analyzing who's working with who is behind particular messaging, and as well as who is distributing misinformation or disinformation. So and those and sometime in 2016 we established formally our fact check project. So before this, in the past, fact checking was more of like something that we do on the fly, not really something that you pursue as a regular part of report. I mean, as not really something that you do as a separate project, but more as part of regular reporting. But what happened was that because of what we saw as a need when we saw that there's been an increase in the number of these groups that are involved in disinformation or misinformation or false claims, or posting false claims, we started regularizing our fact check project and became a signatory of the IFCN and later one of Facebook's third-party fact check partners. So part of the effort is we use the data that we collect from social media and the fact-checking project to study the disinformation network. So we've been doing reports. This is a series of our early reports about the propaganda war online and how fake accounts are being used to manufacture reality. Now, the investigations, we've done quite a lot of these investigations in the digital space. A number of those have led to takedowns. So this is one example of a takedown, the most recent takedown that resulted from an investigation we conducted into information operations online, had to do with attacks against individual activists and activist organizations, and these attacks include outright false claims and hateful messaging, and some of which are shown here. And when we started looking at that network, we found that they were being amplified by police pages as well as by pages whose administrators are unknown. And so what we did was we looked at the network, and then as we asked Facebook for its policies, and we shared with them the data, and they conducted their own investigation, and that resulted in a takedown. So during their investigation, they found that this network was actually operated by a group of military personnel. So this is just an example of a number of these investigations that we have done so far. We've been looking at networks on the ground that are actually actively posting content that are practically revising history in the Philippines, like even to the point of sowing fantastic claims, and people believe them. So this is one of the things that Rappler has been working on, really, like doing the fact-checking and the disinformation network, reporting on the disinformation networks. But aside from this, we saw the need also to use our multimedia experience to produce content on fact-checking online. We have our own series of fact-check video that's done in Filipino and in Taglish. It's a mix of Filipino and English, so that we can reach a broader mass. What else do we do to fight this information? We've been conducting webinars. So in the past, we used to do these workshops to teach the fact-check methodology. Now what we've been doing is we've shifted online because of the pandemic, and then we've conducted over 4 dozen of these webinars where you have like roughly like several hundred people attending, and they're all learning the fact-check methodology. And then these webinars, then participants of these webinars, what we've seen so far is that they've seen the need to like replicate those webinars in their own communities. So some of the ongoing trainings have to do with we're currently preparing for the May 2022 election. So some of the trainings we've been doing recently has to do involves election watchdogs, and we're teaching them how to spot this information related to elections. So Rappler's gone through a huge crisis back in 2018 when the Philippines Securities and Exchange Commission issued a ruling. Basically revoking our license, and that has around that time as well, we have gone through. That was also the height of our of attacks against us. There were the attacks started sometime in 2016, but it really heightened towards 2018. Obviously, to justify that ruling that our license should be revoked. And there's quite a lot. I'm sure a number of you are probably familiar with this. There are quite a lot of cases right now filed against our CEO, Maria Ressa, as well as the company itself. And we're still battling this. But one of the things that we realized as we were battling these concerns, as we were going through this crisis, was the work that we have done with communities actually helped. So a big part of the survival of Rappler, and well, we're still struggling to survive, but a big part of the reason why Rappler, I think, survived over the past years is because it has engaged with communities. And I guess this is the biggest lesson that can be seen from our story. Because of our engagement with communities on the ground, not just online, we sort of developed a support system that worked with us and fought for us and helped us survive the attacks. And right now we're in a number of them are already part of a group that is also helping Rappler survive financially. So one of the things that we have seen over the past, we launched over the past years, and that's growing, is Rappler Plus, which is our a way for communities to support Rappler, support independent journalism, and it's still something we're growing, because really one challenge for news organizations and independent media at large is how do you survive in this space, and somehow what Rappler has been doing is looking at its three pillars in order and looking to maximize the three pillars in order to find that model that will help independent journalism not just survive but thrive in a space, in the current digital space, which is really hard and challenging for news organizations and journalism. So I'm happy to answer questions.